back to English online classes. Through this video, we are going to discuss the 10th lesson from your literature textbook, The Sermon at Benares, taken from Values and Voices, a college reader written by Betty Renshaw. This lesson throws light upon the early life of Lord Buddha, who was originally born as a prince in the royal family. Gautam Buddha began life as a prince named Siddhartha Gautama in northern India. So here the writer says that Gautam Buddha was born to a North Indian royal family. He was a prince and he was named as Siddhartha Gautama. He is believed to live in the time between 563 BC to 483 BC. Now, at 12, he was sent away for schooling in the Hindu sacred scriptures, and 4 years later, he returned home to marry a princess. Here, scriptures, you know that sacred writings of a religion, so that is scriptures. So, he was sent to a faraway place when he was 12 years old. To study those Hindu sacred scriptures and all, and when he returned after 4 years, he was married to a princess. They had a son and lived for 10 years as befitted royalty. Here the word befitted means be appropriate for or suitable for. So here it is told that soon they both had a son and they continued to live the royal life for about 10 years. At about the age of 25, the prince, heretofore shielded from the sufferings of the world, while out hunting chanced upon a sick man, then an aged man, then a funeral procession, and finally a monk begging for alms. Gautam Buddha was not allowed to go out because it was told that if he goes out, then he will leave the princess, the royal family. So he was not allowed to go out. That's why it is told as shielded from the sufferings of the world. Here, heretofore means before now or so far. So far he was shielded from the unpleasant experiences of the world, isn't it? And now the prince got a chance to go out and he met a sick man, an aged man, as well as a funeral procession and a monk looking for alms. These sights so moved him that he at once went out into the world to seek enlightenment concerning the sorrows he had witnessed. So these experiences, that is when he saw that aged man, sick man, the funeral procession and a monk looking for alms and all, it acted as eye-openers for him. And thus he left all the royalty behind to seek a higher experience. He wanted to seek enlightenment. Here enlightenment means a state of high spiritual knowledge. He wandered for 7 years and finally sat down under a peepal tree where he vowed to stay until enlightenment came. Gautam Buddha wandered. Wandered here means move without a fixed course. He moved on for 7 long years. And finally, he sat under a peepal tree and then vowed. Vowed means promise, solemnly promised that he won't get up from there until he gets enlightened. Enlightened after 7 days, he renamed the tree the Bodhi tree and began to teach and to share his new understandings. When he finally attained enlightenment after 7 days, he renamed the peepal tree as Bodhi tree. That means the tree of wisdom. And then he began to teach and to share his understandings. At that point, he became known as the Buddha, the awakened or the enlightened. So at that point, so from that day onwards, he came to known as, he was known as Buddha. What is the meaning of Buddha? The awakened or the enlightened. The Buddha preached his first sermon at the city of Benares, most holy of the dipping places on the river Ganges. That sermon has been preserved and is given here. Buddha started preaching his disciples, and his first sermon took place at the city of Benares. What is the peculiarity of Benares? The most holy of bathing places on the river Ganges. You know the purity of river Ganges. So it is nearby river Ganges. In that place, in the city of Benares, he gave his first sermon. That sermon had been preserved. So that is preserved and it is given in the form of a story here. Okay. It reflects the Buddha's wisdom about one scrutable kind of suffering. So the sermon that he had given at the city of Benares, it reflects Buddha's wisdom about what? About a kind of suffering which someone cannot understand, which people cannot understand. Let's read and discuss the story of Kissa Gautami. Kissa Gautami had an only son and he died. As I told you, this story is about a lady named Kissa Gautami. She had her only son and one day the son died. In her grief, she carried the dead child to all her neighbors asking them for medicine. So you know very well how much painful it will be for a lady if she loses her one and only child. So in grief means in pain and sorrow, she went to all her neighbors and asked them to give her a medicine to cure her baby. The people said, "She has lost her senses. The boy is dead." So people started telling that Kissa Gautami had lost her senses. At length, Kissa Gautami met a man who replied to her request. "I cannot give thee medicine for thy child, but I know a physician who can." So Kissa Gautami went from one house to another begging to get a medicine to cure her baby. But at last she found a man who replied that he couldn't give her a medicine to cure her child, but he knew a physician who could help her. And the girl said, "Pray tell me, sir, who is it?" And the man replied, "Go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha." So the girl, here Kissa Gautami, she prayed and asked that man who that physician was. The man replied that she has to go to Sakyamuni, the Buddha. Kissa Gautami repaired to Buddha and cried, "Lord and Master, give me the medicine that will cure my boy." So with hope, she went to Gautam Buddha and requested. She cried, she prayed before Lord Buddha and asked to give a medicine that could cure her boy. The Buddha answered, "I want a handful of mustard seed." So what did Buddha ask her? Buddha asked her to bring a handful of mustard seed. And when the girl in her joy promised to procure it, the Buddha added, "The mustard seed must be taken from a house where no one has lost a child, husband, parent, or friend." So the girl was very happy and she promised to procure it. Procure means to bring something with effort. She was ready to bring that mustard seed. At that time, Buddha added that the mustard seed should be taken from a house wherein no one had died, wherein no one had lost a child, husband, parent, or even friend. Poor Kissa Gautami now went from house to house, and the people pitied her and said, "Here is the mustard seed, take it." So poor Kissa Gautami, she wanted her baby back. That's why she was ready to go from house to house and she begged for mustard seed. People pitied her and they were ready to give mustard seed. But when she asked, "Did a son or a daughter, a father or mother die in your family?" they answered her, "Alas, the living are few, but the dead are many. Do not remind us of our deepest grief." So, when the people were ready to give mustard seed, she asked her whether anybody had died in that family, whether a son or a daughter or a father or mother died in that family. People answered that living are few in their houses, but the dead are many. That means that lot of beloved ones had died in their families. They never want her to remind them about their beloved ones who lost their lives. And there was no house, but some beloved one had died in it. So Kissa Gautami couldn't find any house wherein any beloved one hadn't died. That means in all the houses, one or two or some people might have died. Kissa Gautami became weary and hopeless and sat down at the wayside watching the lights of the city as they flickered up and were extinguished again. So she became weary, she became very tired, totally exhausted, and she lost all her hope. She sat down at the wayside and watched the lights of the city. So the lights were flickering up and were extinguished again. So the lights that they're blinking at last full of darkness. At last the darkness of the night reigned everywhere. So there only darkness was there. No lights were seen. And she considered the fate of men, that their lives flicker up and are extinguished again. So she understood the fate of men, the nature of men. Their lives will also flicker up. Flicker up means will blink. And at last will be extinguished. She realized that the man's fate was just like these city lights that flicker and extinguish repeatedly. The cycle of birth and death is nature's way of working. And she thought to herself, "How selfish am I in my grief? Death is common to all. Yet in this valley of desolation, there is a path that leads him to immortality who has surrendered all selfishness." Valley of desolation means an area which is filled with deep sorrow. Suddenly she became conscious as to how selfish she had been in her sorrow, and that one who was born must die one day, must rest eternally. Men are mortal, and the ones that are immortals have covered a path free from all worldly pleasures. She understood that death is common to everyone. Yet, in that valley of desolation, that means the area which is filled with deep sorrow, there is a path that leads him to immortality. There is a path which can lead man to immortality. So, only person who has surrendered all selfishness can go to that path or can move to that path. The Buddha said, "The life of mortals in the world is troubled and brief and combined with pain." So, Kissa Gautami, she realized the fact that death is inevitable. So, no man is born eternal. She realized it. And so, what she did, she went back to Buddha. So, what did Buddha say at that time? The life of mortals. Mortals means those who bound to die. So, life of men in this world, it is troubled, it's full of troubles, grief, and it is combined with pain. For this, there is not any means by those that have been born can avoid dying. After reaching old age, there is death. Of such a nature are living beings. Buddha continued by telling that those who are born in this world has to die one day. There is not any means by which those that have been born can avoid dying. No one who is born in this world can avoid death. After reaching an old age, after reaching the old age, definitely there will be death. It is the nature of all living beings. As ripe fruits are early in danger of falling, so mortals when born are always in danger of death. Buddha continued by telling that you all ripe fruits, so it's in danger of falling. At any time it can fall, isn't it? So like that mortals are. Men, when they are born in this world, definitely they have to face the danger of death. As all earthen vessels made by the potter end in being broken, so is the life of mortals. All the earthen vessels which are made by potters will break one day. So like that, the life of mortals are. Definitely, they have to face the death. Both young and adult, both those who are fools and those who are wise, all fall into the power of death. All are subject to death. Here again Buddha says that everyone has to face death. Either a young man or an adult one or a fool or a wise man, they all have to fall into the power of death. All are subjected to death. Of those who overcome by death, depart from life, a father cannot save his son, nor kinsmen their relations. The only way death works is by withdrawing the person from the livelihood. That means the person stops to exist. No one has control over death. Neither a father can save his son, nor a kinsman can save his relative. Mark, while relatives are looking on and lamenting deeply, one by one mortals are carried off like an ox that is led to the slaughter. Just like an ox that is taken to the slaughterhouse to be killed, so does death do with mortals, leaving none behind. Nobody is accepted from it. Everyone has to face death. So the world is afflicted with death and decay. Therefore, the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world. Now Buddha says that wise people will never grieve at the loss of their relatives or friends. Not from weeping nor from grieving will anyone obtain peace of mind. On the contrary, his pain will be the greater and his body will suffer. Again, Buddha says that if you weep or if you grieve, you will never get the peace of mind. You will never obtain the peace of mind. On the contrary, on the opposite, what happens? The pain will be greater. And who is going to suffer? The person who is weeping or person who is grieving will have to suffer. Their body will have to suffer. He will make himself sick and pale, yet the dead are not saved by his lamentation. So when you weep and cry and when you make your body sick and pale, and when you express your sorrow, then also the dead are not saved. You cannot save the dead people if you lament, if you cry a lot, or if you didn't eat anything during that time. He who seeks peace should draw out the arrow of lamentation and complaint and grief. So here Buddha says that he who wants peace should stop lamenting and complaining and grieving. He who has drawn out the arrow and has become composed will obtain peace of mind. He who has overcome all sorrow will become free from sorrow and be blessed. And in the end, Buddha says that those who have stopped lamenting and those who have stopped complaining, or those who have become composed here means having one's feelings under control. Those who have controlled their feelings and all, they only will obtain peace of mind. And those who have overcome all the sorrow will become free from sorrows, and they all will be blessed.
Are you a disciple of Buddha?
Yes, I'm.
Can you answer to my doubts regarding Buddha's sermon at Banaras?
I will try, madam.
How can we understand the idea of selfishness? Do you agree with Kissa Gotami that she was selfish on her grief? Is it natural for people to be selfish at times?
Selfishness means when a person does something only for his own benefit or thinks only about himself, herself. Kissa Gotami was selfish in wanting her dead son to be alive. It was a mother's love which had blinded her. She was wrong in wanting that. She could not see the reality of life. It is perfectly natural for anyone to be selfish at times. When this desire becomes harmful to others or the demands become unrealistic, it is wrong. A little bit of selfishness is there in generally everyone, and it is natural to be so.
Life is full of trials and tribulations. Kissa Gotami also passes through a period of grief in her life. How does she behave in those circumstances?
After the death of Kissa Gotami's only child, she became very sad. She carried her dead child to her neighbors in order to get medicine to bring him to life. Her neighbors thought that she had gone insane as she was unable to accept the fact that her son had died. It was then that someone suggested her to meet Gautama Buddha. When she met Gautama Buddha, she was asked to collect mustard seeds from a house where no one has ever died. She went from one house to another but was unable to find a single house where no one has died. This way she realized that death is a part of life and anyone who is born is bound to die one day. Thus, Buddha changed her understanding of death.
How does Gautam Buddha make the human beings realize that death is common to all?
In his first sermon, Buddha makes the human being realize that death is common to all. It is true that human life is full of troubles and grief. After the death of the loved one, one's feelings are combined with pain. But life can't stop here. Death is inevitable. It cannot be avoided. So in such adverse situations, there is no use of crying and mourning. If we accept this universal truth of inevitable death, it will not only lessen the pain but also help us to tackle the situation.
The Buddha said, "The world is afflicted with death and decay, therefore the wise do not grieve, knowing the terms of the world." Do you think the statement is appropriate even for today's life?
Buddha's first sermon at Benares was to accept death as a fact, as a truth that cannot change. Grieving and lamenting cannot lessen the pain or revive a dead one, but only make life more difficult. Man is mortal, is a harsh reality which is as steadfast as the various other natural phenomena. The cycle of birth and death is eternal and continues ceaselessly. Acceptance of this truth is important, and in the light of the transient nature of life, one must strive to do at least one good deed every day and live life to the fullest.
Thank you so much, sir, for spending your valuable time.